Hello, hello. How we doing tonight? Bit of a rougher day on the markets, right? I'm doing great, Alex. Thank you for asking. Still a little tired. But during these winter months, I love the snow. But it does seem like with the sun going down earlier, it does tend to me feeling a little bit more tired overall. Right? During summer, I can not sleep for 3 days and barely feel a thing. But in winter, I mean, sometimes I take naps. So, really a big difference there. Other than that, doing awesome. We had a little bit of a rougher day, and I don't know. I don't want to say lucky, but I feel like I got lucky because I took a trade early and this time it worked. And it was a half risk trade. I'll show it, I'll explain it, I'll explain why as well. But I pretty much took an earlier entry, like I like to do when I DCA. We'll look at it nonetheless. But from a higher time frame perspective, right? I told you guys yesterday, it's the same thing. It's gonna be rough, it's gonna have a hard time, but we just have to fill that gap, right? So our target was still higher. Nothing changed for that on my end. I was still looking for higher, and that's all. Perhaps we'll have some downwards movements in the coming weeks, but truth is, we're just stuck in a range, right? We created this range, and we're just going to be trading within it for a while. And now we want to see us go take out these levels above to then go lower, but even then, we're not going to go look as far because we'll look as far as that when we need to. And we're actually starting the monthly outlooks next week. So definitely don't want to miss it. I'm going to make an announcement Saturday, probably. Well, I say probably, but yes, I'll make an announcement Saturday saying it to everybody, but weekly outlook on Sunday will also have the monthly statistical outlook. So first time trying it, hope you guys will enjoy that. Looking specifically now at today, and let's actually remove the news. We only had 8:30 news today. So, you know what? I like using this to showcase the news, so I'm going to use it. But as we can see, same thing as yesterday, right? Like literally same thing. That's not what I'm trying to do. I don't want that line. Why is that line showing me power of 3? This is not a line from power of 3. This is a line from my indicator. Okay, that's weird. So, just looking at this, right? So we can see yesterday, look at the price action. What do you see, right? Focusing once again on the symmetry. And Charles, just to answer you, I didn't set that up. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I had a rough day today filled with a lot of stuff to do, and I just didn't take the time to set up the camera. So it's gonna have to wait. I apologize. Don't see it as a big thing. I'll be there tomorrow, and I'll make sure that I have the camera set up before then. How about that? I won't forget this time. 100%. Didn't know it was such a big thing, but I'll make sure it happens. But once again, just to get back into it, what do we see? Well, we see an initial movement followed by a move higher, move lower, and an aggressive retracement. What did we have today? Well, price open, we ran higher, went higher once again in London, and then we went lower. We did have a final push here before going lower and retracing aggressively. But once again, as I like to say, just focus on the symmetry, right? And if we kind of like, if you think you would average these moves, well, okay, what is that? Well, it just went up here and then went down here. But if you want to be a little more precise, I'd say it went up here, down, up, down, aggressive retracement. So coming into New York, what did we have, right? Right here is 8:30 again. We just had aggressive move lower, aggressive move higher. Basically characterized. I was looking for a nice word. I hate this. It is pissing me off. This is not a vertical line from their indicator. Okay, sorry. But looking at this, we can just see that every other move, pretty much everything in between, was high resistance. So we'll look at those moves and how we could trade them, engage them. The most important part to notice here, in my opinion, now this is something that we haven't looked at yet, well, that I haven't projected yet. I've hinted a lot about the news framework in general, but this is something that I've gotten the data since the last 2 weeks and have been using since then. And I want to wait until the data is available in my statistics. But news frameworks looking at highs and lows formed from news is awesome. So quite excited to bring that to you guys. But looking specifically, we don't have a clear Judah swing at that news, right? You traded a little higher, you broke the low of that news, you broke the high. You don't have any clear direction that you can get from this, right? So what are you going to wait for? Well, since the manipulation did not come out of the news, then I'm going to need to wait for that manipulation to occur. Now, I'm not going to lie to you guys. Us opening right here and then consolidating for 3 minutes, then that move lower confirmed through SMT was a time-based manipulation, and I could frame some longs. And since, as we explained, my bias was long, then in that case, everything aligns, right? So all I'm waiting for is a breaker block for me to enter on. Well, truth is, you didn't have an entry on NASDAQ, sadly. You had that entry on ES, and it was actually right as that SMT formed. So you had previous SMT. You did not. Okay, so you needed to wait for that SMT, but that SMT formed previously. Well, actually, just trying to look back right here. This is SMT. Yeah, so you do have SMT previously between the lows of the news and price. So even better, actually. I did not notice that live this morning, but you have clear SMT at this area. So once again, what are you waiting for? You're waiting for a breaker block to form, but the entry was on ES. Now, these are the times where I say, I'm going to see the entry on ES, and I'll just click the button on NASDAQ. So we can see this is 935. This is where I would just click the button on NASDAQ. And this is where I get the crazy entries. I'm not going to lie. But entering on that SMT, that is your retracement into a breaker block, really does give you a nice trade. Outside of this, NASDAQ just did not give you an opportunity, right? You formed your breaker blocks, but you had no retracements into any arrays that we could utilize. You could have justified this inversion fair value gap. We're going to look at it once again from a mechanical standpoint. Did we trade back into this? This is so rough. Yes, we did. Okay, so we're going to look at it then, right? So you have an inversion fair value gap here. You formed a breaker block right here when trading above. And as we can see, you had an entry available right there, and that's actually a little too much red, starting to hurt my eyes. I like SMT to be red because I wanted to stand out. It's an important part of my model, right? So I want to see it easily, but when you get too much red, it gets a little hard on the eyes. But as we can see, entry right here, you could have your stop right at this level. Why? Once again, 3PD array stop loss rule. You have a fair value gap, inversion fair value gap, sorry, right there. Well, actually, this is not yet a fair value gap. So you'd have this order block next to it, and then the liquidity below this low. So your stop would be quite wide on this one, but we already rebalanced this. So you see, these are some rules that would definitely tell me that this is the obvious stop loss, but clearly it is not for everybody. And of course, your only possible target is current high of day. And at this case, I don't even think that offers too much risk to reward. Almost 1.5. I mean, fair enough. This is a trade that could be taken. Personally, when I see this, I just feel like I'm late to the move. And sometimes it doesn't give me an entry. And look at how big this consolidation is, right? It's 60 points. So 60 points to 75, 80 points. And then you have another, what is that? 65-point move, a 30-point retracement, and then you want to be trading that move. Well, for me, I had to be entered on this leg, which is what I did this morning. I just don't talk too much about it. Well, too frequently, I guess, because it doesn't happen quite frequently. So if you want to keep it simple, just forget about this. But for me, an entry on ES, I can just click the button on NASDAQ and it should be doing what it has to do. And truth is, you had your raid here as well. So that is just a clear turtle soup in my book, following your 930 opening Judah swing SMT. That's your unicorn entry on ES. So personally, that's what I traded this morning. I had an entry on the next candle. I believe I was quite high, to be honest. I was a little late to it, but I had my stop right here. That's what I like doing oftentimes. is when I see this SMT form and I'm very confident in it, right? And there's, of course, an entry on ES, then I like to wait until the next candle, which allows me to place my stop here. Because if I'm entering on this candle, I don't know how deep it's going to go for the manipulation. It could, sometimes it can go all the way down to here, right? To the next level. So in cases like these, I don't like just trading on this one. I like waiting for the next one. So I just wait for the candle that takes out this liquidity that of course has a lot of momentum to close. And then when I see an open low more often than not, but also just movement to the upside, I just take a trade in this candle and place my stop at the low of the previous candle. So I can't show you guys a precise level or precise rule-based idea to look at it. And these types of setups just happen so not frequently that it's really not worth your time too much. Truth is, when you see that entry, you might as well just trade it on ES. So for the first time in a few months, we're actually going to focus on ES. Wow, that feels weird. But from here, we can see clearly a range formed here, and the low of that range was taken, followed by the high, which forms a breaker block, and clearly overlapping fair value gap right here. You could also justify the inversion fair value gap at this level. So let's use the worst entry, which would be the fair value gap. And if we move this aside and we enter here, stop would very clearly be here. You have fair value gap, inversion fair value gap, and the order block. So you have a pretty nice trade. And what is this level of, what is this random line? No clue what it is, but if we look at the same level, right, current daily high, which is the same level we're looking at on NASDAQ, ES offers 2.82R, which is clearly a better opportunity than the 1.5 we saw from the late entry right here, which actually at this point in time, that's where ES took out the high. So would I really be entering on the trade when it just formed SMT on my other asset? The good answer is no. There is absolutely no shot. Does that make sense? I do want to point that out, and it's weird for me actually just even looking at ES, because the good trade was on ES. Personally, when I see the trade on ES like this, I just like to enter on the other one. But I have a lot of experience in doing this. So for someone starting trading, I wouldn't recommend allowing deviations from your rules. I would just recommend follow your rules. They're going to make you money, and then you can become a better trader once you're actually generating income, right? Just a little bit of advice from the person who actually did not do that and learned the hard way by just having a big step back when I was already a profitable trader. So I do recommend just going at it easy in that way. But enough talking about this sketchy long opportunity, even though, as we said, it was a good one. What really sucks is that we didn't get an opportunity to short. And when I say we, I mean we as unicorn traders. Now, perhaps you're looking to take a trade after this breaker forms with this fair value gap, and then you're like, okay, well, look, you had a beautiful entry. Where's my 3PD array stop loss rule here? Well, I have fair value gap, I have an inversion fair value gap right here, and the order block above. That's not too bad, right? 60 points. And what am I going to target? Well, there are clear objectives along the way, right? Of course, my target will be all the way down here, but I would look to partial anywhere near 2R and probably use standard deviations for it, right? So big standard deviations, once again, and also the small ones give you a clear area somewhere around here, which gives you approximately 2R. If we just look at it, right, I just went over it very quickly. But you have 4 standard deviations, which is beautiful in this specific case, and 1 and 2.5 for partial, but it would have been a little too low for a partial, so perhaps a break even. Yes, this is a successful winning trade, okay? I am not saying otherwise, but I don't like it. Why? Because you're late. That's the truth. When I'm late like this, I know it's going to be a trade that I'm going to have to watch. Wow, I can't speak anymore. A trade that I'm going to have to watch, so to stay in front of my charts. And once again, it's a question about saving time. I had the wonderful opportunity to meet Umar Ashraf. And I don't know if I'm saying his name right. You guys know me. I'm rough on pronunciation. But he's a founder of TradeZella. And I met him when I came down to New York. And it was awesome because he is truly an inspiration. And one of the biggest things that I saw him do, and that he was an example for me, so I wanted to be able to do the same thing in this sense, was trade not a lot. So see, I believe he posted that he didn't even trade in January up until I think yesterday he took his first trade of January. And that just to me is so focused, because yes, anyone can come on the charts, trade every day, whatnot. It's hard not to trade every day. It's hard to try and focus and find your best possible conditions and knowing when your edge is more pronounced in the markets. So some days I could come to my charts and I have an 80% chance of break even. Days with absolutely no news, and more specifically certain days, right? But let's say I come the day after a bank holiday. My actual stats are 60% chance of break even at the end of the session. Just because in the past that I've traded, that's what I got. And these are not hardcore data points. These are just data points from my personal trading. So why would I go on those days when I know that the majority of the time I'll get broken even? Yes, if I trade all of those days, I'll make more money, but I'll be spending a lot of my time. So it's just to give you guys a thought process, right? You already know how I interact with these markets. You already know what my psychology is. And as traders, you have to figure out how you want to engage. Hence why I created a model that allowed for both different types of thoughts, I guess, types of mentality with trading were profitable, right? But truth is, I do believe that there is a best one, and I do believe that the best way to trade is to spend the least amount of time on your chart. Enough rambling. When I'm tired like this, I get in my rant space and I just start rambling like this. But looking at this trade, right, it is a good trade. It is a valuable trade. It is a rise model entry, right? So if I just move this over, this is your bearish breaker block right here. Let me just include that top wick. You have your overlapping fair value gap that we consolidated within for a little bit, right? Nothing too crazy though. Didn't go too far, and your drawdown would not have been a reason to stress. And of course, if your stop's all the way up here, you're expecting it to trade within this gap, right? Beautifully to the breaker block and then expanded. Once again, standard deviations aligned beautifully, giving you an opportunity to a partial. Little small for me for partial, but this is a great opportunity to break even, especially after this sort of consolidation. And right after you would have hit your final objective. All standard deviation space, just because there isn't much to the left. The only clear level that I spot is, let me actually draw it right, is this level in liquidity. And then of course you can target old consolidations, which just shows to the form of relative equal lows. And we reached all of these levels. These relative equal lows would actually been a better objective, just in terms of targets. Sweeping these lows into your standard deviations gives you all the confluence you need. Now after this, of course, there is also a reversal that formed here during the 950 to 1010. But truth is, you just didn't have an entry, right? Where did you form the bullish breaker? Well, if I look at the range, the bullish breaker was formed when we crossed through here, and you just didn't have any retracements, right? Well, I say this and I see one right now. So why the hell did I not see it today? I am furious at the moment, because I just took a long right here, but I was still looking at my charts looking for more opportunity after reversed, because the way I took profit at this high and barely took profit here. So I still got broken even on half my position in this position, which I just managed to not aggressively enough. But looking at this, and if we look, well, actually you even have a breaker block that formed beforehand. I'm going to start always drawing them with standard deviations, so you guys get a little bit more used to how I draw these things. But you had a very nice breaker block right here, and this one didn't give you an entry. So that's the one I spotted. But if we look to the left, is this still valid to say that this is a breaker range? Yes, we took out the low and then took out the high, which formed the last up close candle to be a bullish breaker block. Let's actually use the correct colors for once today, right here. And what do we see here? Well, inversion fair value gap. that we just traded back into to the tick. So you would have had a beautiful, really to the tick entry, absolutely zero drawdown trade, and that would have been 1 PD array, 2 PD arrays, and 3 PD arrays with that propulsion block, actually. No, order block right here, giving you a 50-point stop, and you could have targeted clearly the slow resistance liquidity, right? Which would have given you, what is that? 2.9 R at that time. Of course, I just see this and I know this is the right area to target through my experience, and see we did not even reach it, or did we to the tick? Yeah, to the tick again. This is absolutely fucking crazy. I did not notice this because after I saw this move higher, I closed my chart, but reversing at that point just for deep retracement and then continuing, that would have been horrible. If I was in this trade, that would have been painful to do. But if you just followed your rules, once again, you would have been fine. Looking at a 5-minute chart just to find your actual mechanical objective, you have a pretty big range, right? And that also lasted a decent amount of time. So looking at this on a 5-minute is okay, but I would prefer to go on a 15-minute chart for an intraday, right? When I have a big range, I prefer to use this. And we're starting to have a lot of color here, but let me just bring this temporarily so that we can see that my first premium in efficiency is right here. So let's mark this out. This would be your true mechanical take profit, right? Your true mechanical take profit would be this partial right here. But when I see the low resistance liquidity to the just a little above there, I'm clearly going to take profit there. But whenever we do reviews, whenever we backtest, I always say you should be pessimistic. So we're going to look at the worst possible outcome. The worst possible outcome in this case is partial right here. Now, are we going to keep going and say, well, look, you could have shorted this after, and then you could have longed this after? No. Why? Because we're during lunch here, and I'm not interested in trading during lunch. And if we look at the PM session when it starts right here at 1:30, I can't justify going long, even if it's with my bias, because the power of 3 tells me that we had our distribution already, right? We opened, manipulated higher, manipulation came at New York open, then distribution lower. This is just a retracement, right? This move is just a retracement. So I can't frame anything other than shorts, and there is no clear short opportunity in the PM until way later. And even then, like if you caught this short, I mean, that's not what my model does. This is just a very aggressive move lower for no reason, as I like to say. It's 4:30 had a move. I think we had just a big earnings week this week, right? Which is just after market news pretty much, which means that during market hours, we see some very weird stuff going on. Just overall high resistance price movement. And it's not always fun to be a part of, but there's always a way to filter through it. And in this case, if you only took valid rise models, win-win. Why? Because there was no entry here. Or actually, let's consider this, okay? And since this doesn't offer enough risk to reward here, let's consider this first trade a break even, right? Because we talked about this very recently. If my trade is this, and I just placed a random stop, no, this is actually the correct stop. So if my trade is this, and this should be my target, but it doesn't offer enough risk to reward, what are my rules? My rules are that I place my stop break even. So you would have had one break even, followed by one win. And after these relative equal lows are hit and you're within this area, can you call this a point of interest? Yes. So if a bullish setup forms, aligned of course with your daily bias, then that is a trade as well, a valid trade. The only thing you'd be missing at this point is SMT. I remember there was SMT, but where? Where? I'm looking at it right now. Okay, so there was divergence at this level. No SMT really, but we had divergence. I'm going to see this because I want to see if there is actual SMT or just divergence, which I don't want to get into for no reason right now. So, okay, yes, there is. Awesome. So this second level is some SMT. So it is a swing low. And of course, we're in the 1 minute chart looking at yesterday's PA. But I don't need anything to be present other than the fact that there is divergence. Now, the easiest way to spot this, I believe, is SMT. I have a bunch of different ways to look at divergence, but this just tips the hand to me that, hey, there is some involvement at these levels. That's just a way for me to see it. There is some aggressive buying or aggressive selling. I don't believe that's what controls the markets, but I believe that these divergences in price show us which asset is stronger or weaker. In this case, which it would be, ES would be stronger. And clearly we could have seen that from the morning move, right? A little bit of a sloppy movement, but once again, if we focus on the specifics, you would have had this entry, and this break even. This win-win break even. And you might ask me, okay, well, why are you not trading? I'm just trying to find a failed breaker. Why am I not trading this bullish breaker, right? You always say, oh, we'll trade every breaker. First of all, I'm in a short here. So of course I'm not trading this bullish breaker. I'm not closing my trade. I'm in a trade. Okay, that seems a little too easy of an answer. Okay, let's say I did not take this first trade. Why would you not have gone long here? Okay, well, let's analyze it. Do we have a key level that has been taken out? Current daily low. Is this good enough? 100%. Right? So we look at this low. It's been taken out. Then we form a bullish breaker. Is there SMT? Well, let's look. Right? I see this. Current daily low has been taken. And on the other asset, let me just put a line so it's a little easier for me to spot. And I'm going to have to zoom in. I like to do these exercises, but if we look right here, current daily low has not been taken, so there is SMT at this point. So now what else do you need? Well, I need an entry. Right here, we formed a fair value gap when this closed, and we had a retracement into it. Is this a valid entry? Yes. And your stop would be fair value gap, break, I was going to say breaker block, order block, and fair value gap. Your stop would be here. You would have some clear objectives at this level very clearly, and then higher, looking for higher as we were looking for the gap fill very clearly, and that would have been a loss. That's the truth. But you should be short. So that loss should never happen. But yes, this would have been a loss at this point in time. So you would have gotten break even, then loss, then win. I like to go through these, as I said, exercises with you guys, because I feel it's important to consider mechanical logic, right? We have a system. I should be brain dead. Well, even if I'm brain dead, I should be able to analyze this. And that sounds bad, but it's kind of an expression for someone a little slow, let's say. So even if you're not the smartest pea in the pot, all right? Let's just say it like that. Let's have some family-friendly words used here. You're able to follow a rule set. And all you have to do is practice that system. So you look at charts, you practice, not so that you can know if you're profitable or not. Who cares? It's a set of rules. It works. We've showcased it. We have the data behind it. So why are you practicing them? Well, so that your eyes get used to seeing these setups form, and that you can start anticipating them, so that you're ready when that setup forms and you have half a second to click on the buy button. If not, you're going to get slipped, and all of a sudden your 2R trade is a 1.57R trade. How do you do that? Well, you got to be laser focused, but you also got to be able to recognize these setups, which is a big important part of why I do these peer reviews for my students, actually, initially. Looking at all of this, you had a lot of different moves that you could justify 1,000 different ways, but I just skipped through the bullshit, trade my system, and as we saw, another successful day for the rice trading model, even if it's another day where I have too many drawings on my chart. I want to get better at this, but I would have to delete them all the time, and I like for the thumbnail to just have all the info, so hopefully it is worth it for you guys. How are we feeling? Any questions? How did we perform today? Talk to me, guys. Are there specific things you look for before 6:30 as making the day lower probability, like a day to set out? I do not, because I did used to have rules like this. Like, for example, I think the classic ICT ones, and sorry if I'm wrong here, I could be, but like if both sides of London are taken out, or if both sides of Asia are taken out, like this is something that you wouldn't want to be a part of because New York Open is lower probability. Okay, lower probability says who? It's one of the reasons why I got into statistics and data. Like, why could I not trade this? You don't explain to me. Okay, but when I see my charts, I see that I missed some nice moves. So then it comes down to the fact that, okay, well, when these specific rules happen, like for example, London, both sides being taken out, how often do I get a shit move? How often do I get a good move? Well, only 30% of the time it's horrible, but the other 70 is good. So during the other 70%, I have a winning opportunity more often than not. That simple. So I tried the classic ICT rules. I don't remember them. I tried them a while ago, and it's just not worth it. My edge is present every single day. I choose to focus on the higher probability days and interact with specific news a certain way. But outside of that, those are the only specifics I have. I come to my charts at 9:15 every morning because if I come in beforehand, I'm going to overthink. So I spend 5 to 10 minutes looking at my charts and then I'm ready to trade. I spend an hour to 2 hours. So sometimes I'll stop at 10:30 if I've had a win in the morning. Sometimes I just call it. And sometimes I'll leave it going all the way to 11:30. And I very, very rarely spend 30 to 40 minutes in the PM session. So I have very specific times to engage with the markets. I'm a specialist, not an all-around, all-day trader. So no excuses. If it sucks, it sucks. If it's good, it's good. Follow the script. There you go. No excuses. No excuses is just my way of thinking about anything. And we're going to go a little into the extreme here. And if you don't want to hear this psychology rants, you can leave, right? Okay, don't take it. This is the rest of the analysis that we're going to do. But this no excuses line, all right? It stems from how I view things that happen to me and that happen around me and whatnot. So no matter what happens, it's always your fault and there are no excuses. No excuses goes right along with no regrets. And without regret, I actually have that tattooed on me. Okay, and I have 3 tattoos of significant meaning. So that's important to me. But why? Right? And why? How does that translate to trading? Of course, because there is some value hidden deep in there. And truth is, guys, is every time I click the button, whose fault is it? Whether I win or I lose, whose fault is it? Yours and yours only. When you're trading these markets, you're not depending on anybody else but yourself. If there is someone in this world that can make money or that made money today, it means you had the opportunity to make money today. It is that simple. You don't depend on anyone. Everything you do is your fault and your fault only. So everything good that comes to you is your fault, but everything bad as well. And there are no excuses. You do mistakes, okay, you shouldn't. You shouldn't have. It was all dependent on you. It is your fault. Fix it and continue. So it's a little far-fetched, but maybe if I would spend some time and actually phrase it correctly and structure it in a nice way, it could be something that I post at some point. But it's just how I think. That's the truth. It's just my mentality with everything I do and who I am is just no excuses. No matter what you do, you should always do your best. And no matter the outcome of it, it will always be your fault. And it just makes life so much easier. Never have to be mad at anyone because it's your fault. You're the one that put yourself in that position. And yes, it is a life full of self-reflection and being mad at yourself, pretty much, because you're always blaming yourself for things. But let me tell you, it makes it 100 times easier. No one to blame ever. When it comes to markets, one's responsibility is number one. It makes sense. Never settle. That works great too. We gonna need to see the tattoos? Sure. Sure. I mean, I don't have much. I have a little wing for my grandfather. I have a little, basically a nature depiction with a small wolf inside a triangle, pretty much with an open top. That's actually one I drew myself and someone tattooed on me. And I have traditional Chinese symbols for without regret. And yes, I had them verified, and I spent a few months in China when I was young, so I know that that's what it means. I was careful. No thug life tattoo? Fuck no. I am going to get another one very soon for my grandmother who passed away last month, actually. But that is it. I like tattoos because they are part of you. I like the how permanent they are. But for me, that means that it's important that they have meaning. Even if it's a dumb meaning that's just for me, like that's what's important. Because for me, those tattoos are a part of me, and that's what they are. I have one that represents myself. Well, two that represents myself, and then I have one for my grandfather. Gonna get one for my grandmother as well. Yeah, a little bit more of life talk. Maybe I should have closed the recording there. But I don't know. Sometimes I feel like it's important to remember that it's not because someone is doing something online that they are not genuine. So I like telling you guys about myself a little bit here and there so that you guys can put a face and a personality behind this person that you see typing and trading on the internet. You know? I feel like that's important. It's my pleasure, Perez. And anyways, people who don't want to hear it, you can leave earlier, right? You guys know. What were we tonight? 6, 7 people? I don't need more than that. I don't care. I'm gonna do these either way. If I can help 6 people, today was a successful day. That's it. And even if they don't need my help, right? And they just come in here to chill or to see how I interact with the markets, well, maybe I inspired some people. I don't know. Thank you very much, Seb. I appreciate that. That's why I did take a little bit of a few days off near well, just before the holidays, actually. What can you do, right? Life goes on. It is what it is. Going in for a no regrets tattoo tonight? Holy fuck. I hope not. I don't want to entice you. Disclaimer, I'm not telling yourself to go get tattoos. Yeah, they're gonna forget to write the no regrets. They're gonna just write regrets, and that's gonna be quite a nice tattoo. Perfect. All right, guys. Well, I'll wish you all a great night. I hope I can go to bed early tonight because I am very tired. So I'll wish you guys a good night. Thank you, Alex. My mic just I just hit my microphone before I could say bye correctly. But bye, guys. Have a great night. Appreciate you all being here as always. We'll see each other tomorrow.